Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome back to another True Crime Deep Dive here. I'm Gavin Fish. Thank you so much for joining me. I want to get my levels right on my headphones here. So glad that you're here. 2 nights in a row. I'm trying in October to really just knuckle down and focus and maybe get us, maybe average about 20 videos. I want to be busy. We've got a lot to cover, especially in this case, the case of Madeline Soto, who I know everybody knows this, but for those of you who don't, Madeline was a 13-year-old little girl who went quote unquote missing from school. Of course, we found out later that that's not really what happened. She was murdered, and the person charged in her murder is her mother's boyfriend, a man named Stephan Stearns. Her mother, Jennifer Soto, to me, is probably complicit in this crime. That's what I suspect anyway. She has not faced any charges so far. In fact, she enjoys limited immunity. And if you go over to the website, I know that a lot of you know this, but I wrote a blog post about what derivative use immunity is, which is the kind of immunity that Jennifer Soto enjoys right now. So please go ahead and head on over there if you want to learn a little bit more about that. Actually, while I'm on the browser, guys, can you believe this? This channel has grown to, we're coming up on 90,000 subscribers, and I'm so grateful to those of you who think that it's worth your time to subscribe to the channel. It would just blow my mind, as we're getting closer and closer to that goal of 100,000 subscribers, which, in and of itself doesn't mean much. But it's a measurement, right? That a lot of us aspire to, and I've been working towards that for 4 years. So thank you to all of you who subscribe to the show. But anyway, I think that Jen Soto probably will be charged eventually. And tonight we're going to be listening to a recording. It's been out there for a couple weeks. As you guys know, I was sick and then I was traveling, so I haven't had a real chance to go through everything that has been released. But this is a recording of Chris Stearns, of Stephan Stearns' dad, Chris. This is Chris Stearns. We have listened to a recording prior of both Chris and Deb Stearns, but tonight we're going to be listening to a short recording. It's about, what is it? It's about 22 minutes long, but I'm gonna chop off the first about 2 minutes and 40 seconds because it's all just kind of small talky and everything. But just to set this up, this recording happened pretty darn recently. It was July 16th. He goes to the Kissimmee Police Department. It's like 9:18 in the morning. And I think Mr. Stearns is a former police officer, at least for a short time. And his main question as he starts out is like, hey, how come Jen hasn't been charged? So that's what we're going to be doing today. I will probably do us all a favor and not show Chris all the time. I'd like to keep the focus on our victim, little Maddie Soto, who, I didn't finish my intro on this. Stephan Stearns is charged in her murder, but he's also charged with multiple counts, like 60 counts of her abuse that occurred over many years, 5 years at least. And we heard in yesterday's live stream, if you haven't heard that one, go back and listen to it, that he was also secretively taking photos of other women in the apartment which he was staying, which was Jennifer Soto's father's townhouse. Anyway, sick dude. But we're going to get into this recording. You guys, if you want to get my attention in the live chat, just go ahead and put in GF. I use that as a filter so that I can read your comments, and hopefully our technology is going to work well today. It does seem like the video is doing okay. All right, so here we go. We're 2 minutes and 40 seconds into this. And sorry guys, let me bring you back over to my website real quick. You can listen to the whole thing. I know that I've skipped ahead 2 minutes and 40 seconds. I also have bumped up the volume of the audio a little bit and enhanced it using AI a little bit so it doesn't sound quite so bad. I didn't overdo it. It doesn't sound like it's in a studio or anything like that because it was cutting off words and everything. So I enhanced it a little bit so that we don't have to listen to terrible recording quality. But you can go to my website, gavinfish.com, click on cases, click on Maddie, and then go on down here where I have all the audio recordings for my patrons. So if you want to listen to the whole thing, please consider supporting me on Patreon. There's all sorts of other stuff, including crime scene photos and everything there too. So please head on over there. With that, we'll get Maddie's face back up here, and we're going to listen to about 20 minutes of this conversation. Here we go.
Hey, I just wanted to touch base with you, just to get up to speed on some things. I'm surprised that Jen hasn't been arrested yet because, we feel in our heart that, she was there when the death occurred and was involved in the cover-up. She obviously lied to the sheriff's department in their statement as to, the disappearance of Jen when that was all a ruse. Maddie was a ruse to begin with. Mm-hmm. So I'm just curious as to why nothing. Where is she? Is she still in the country? Is she in some institution?
I don't know. I know the state attorney's office has been in contact with her. Once my case packet is delivered to the state attorney's office, my involvement is pretty much done.
Yeah.
So, where she's at, no idea.
Okay.
But I know the state attorney is still in contact with her.
Okay. Well, all right. It's just surprising that somebody that was there during the death and probably responsible for it certainly participated and hasn't been arrested. One of the things that we have kind of speculated or come to the conclusion of is in talking to Stephan, and obviously he's not telling us much because he's under the instructions of his attorney to keep quiet about it, and obviously that's their defense. But he said something kind of odd that we have been, my wife and I have been kind of kicking back and forth, and he made a statement that said, "I didn't start it." Mm-hmm. And that kind of puzzled me as to, well, what do you mean I didn't start it? And getting to the chase, I think they were involved in some sort of criminal enterprise. I think those photos on his phone, and again, the day of his arrest, Jennifer's demeanor, as I've shared with you, is just really out of context of what you would expect from a mother who just learned that her significant other.
Let's pause here for just a second. So this is actually something that many people have suspected, including people in my comment area on my live streams, that Jen was involved and they were involved. He describes it as some sort of criminal enterprise. I think we all know what that means. He had something like 1,700 photos, could have included videos as well, of Madeline engaging in, she's not engaging in anything. She is being abused. But he had something like 30,000 other photos that included CSAM, right? And he is alleging here, it sounds like he's calling it some sort of criminal enterprise, and he's bringing up the photos. I'm sure that what he thinks is that they're selling these photos. And that makes me wonder because from what I can tell, Stephan wasn't really bringing in any income. I know that he was recently employed with Disney. Jen was also recently employed with Disney, but she had some sort of a disability that she got as well. And yet with Stephan, well, there are a couple things. I was about to say there's no explanation for all the toys that he had. And by toys, I mean like actual toys, like Tamagotchis and Warhammer figurines and stuff like that. But then I also remember that the Stearns, Deb and Chris, were very enabling of Stephan and I'm taking this, well, that's my opinion, but I'm taking this from the recording that we listened to a few weeks ago. He tended to pay for everything for this kid, and I'm calling him a kid because I mean he's a grown man. What is he? 37 years old. But it's like he's a failure to launch, and he has some sort of mental disability, maybe from traumatic brain injury. But either way, it also, that stuff could have come from the proceeds of a criminal enterprise involving those photos and those videos. And, when we were talking about Angelica last night, where over the course of 2 or 3 minutes, he under the door was taking pictures of her, intimate pictures of her that made her cry, made her voice break. He may have been engaging in selling those kinds of things too on the voyeur market or whatever that's called. So, and I think that is a good suspicion to have. Like I can't prove that Jen was part of that, but it's just so bad that the behavior that Jen engaged in sending her daughter into the bed of her on again, off again boyfriend, right? This little Maddie Soto was a long-term victim of not just him, but I believe them, both of them. Okay, so I won't belabor that. Let's go back to the recording.
I think that is still a possibility of that occurring. But I don't know if she took a photo of the photos that she was shown, the images off of Stephan's phone, or maybe she showed me something she had on her phone. But the flashing back to that image, and again, it was something I didn't want to see, so I didn't want to spend a lot of time gazing at it, looking at it, and didn't want to see it to begin with, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. But the image that I recall seeing,
these are redactions.
which meant that.
So you're saying Jen showed you
Yeah.
this picture?
Yeah, and I thought it was maybe she grabbed it. She said she was shown, they had a package, whoever it was showing the package.
That was me.
Okay. She said, well, I don't want to see all. Supposedly, again, her telling me this, that she looked at.
They're redacting this. That's what this is.
Am I imagining that?
I can tell you this, that Jennifer, unless she had, which I'll get that in a second, the pictures that were shown to Jennifer during the interview to identify Stephan, she wasn't able to take any photos of those pictures.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
All right.
Okay. So, and have you read my narrative yet for this?
No.
Okay, that's going to answer a lot of your questions. So I don't know if Stephan can get you.
Well, how would I get that?
I don't know if his attorney can give it to you, or if Stephan, I'm sure he already has it through discovery and stuff like that.
Well, did the state attorney release the investigative reports?
Everything should have been released.
Yeah,
because I know here,
because the news stations immediately put up their stories about it on their.
I know public records requests have been done here as well for the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of us were putting in public records requests. Probably thousands of us were putting in those requests. I wanted to pause to address Kathy Reed's comment here. This is a good comment. Gavin, I don't think Jen is smart enough to be aware of the ring. So, hey, Kathy, this is out of all due respect. I'm just quibbling for the sake of quibbling, right? This is not an argument. Just for the sake of discussion here, right? I don't think that she's terribly smart either. But like in my day job of being a crime reporter and going to courts and reading, affidavits and reports and preliminary hearings and all the stuff, right? Nobody, and I mean nobody in the criminal element, people that behave criminally, are all that smart. There are no geniuses, right? Now, I hear what you're saying, that you don't think that she's smart enough. I don't think she's very smart either. It's very possible, though, that because of that mental, let's call it a mental disability, she can just be easily talked into going along. That's what I think. I think that I think Chris Stearns here is probably right on the money when he said that she was involved somehow. It's possible that she's being taken advantage of, but she's going along with it, and that's chargeable. And remember what the derivative use, thank you for that comment, Kathy. Remember the derivative use immunity that she enjoys. She is immune from anything that she gives the police that is not a lie, as long as she does not lie. So anything that they uncover because of something that she told them, or anything that is a derivative of that, she is immune. However, if she's caught in a lie, and we listened to that interview when she was in the presence of her attorney, we listened to that interview. A lot of those questions seemed to be designed to catch her in a lie, like ask her questions that they already know the answer to, hoping that she will lie. And then the second thing is, if they can find a way to that evidence that they got through her testimony another way, then she's on the hook for that too. So yeah, I think that she is involved somehow, even though I don't think that she's all that smart. Thank you very much for that comment, Kathy. That was a great comment. Thank you. Let's continue.
So it's out there. And that's going to answer a lot of your questions. But as for a picture being on Jennifer's phone, we downloaded her phone just like we did Stephan's, and there is 0 images like that on her phone. So where you got this image, I don't know where that
maybe I'm just envisioning it, but I don't know. But I think they were involved in some sort of criminal enterprise.
Let's pause here for a second, because he's claiming that he saw an image that on Jen's phone of CSAM, the same kind of images that were found on Stephan's phone. And what's really interesting on this, like, I honestly think that the Stearns are Frankenstein, and they know that they created a monster, and now they're just relieved that the monster that they created will never leave prison ever again. He is not coming to the defense of his son at all. He's just saying, Jen should be in the same boat. Anyway, he's saying that he saw on Jen's phone an image similar to those images that were found on Stephan's, not on his phone, but on his Google Drive. And that's a heck of a accusation, right? All right, continuing.
Because there was money being spent, packages were arriving at our house on a frequent basis, and when I brought Stephan home from Kissimmee at the end of November, to my knowledge, he had no money. Because I provided a lot of financial support for him and told him, hey, time has run out, I can't do this anymore. Whatever you're doing at Disney is going to take way too many years to go through promotions and pay raises to where you could afford to support yourself. I mean, you need to be making 2.5 times what you're making,
right?
And you'll never get there. You need to find a career path, which is what I was trying to find for him. I was encouraged by his work ethics that he was demonstrating at Disney, which what precipitated me bringing him back. But since learned as early as the day he was arrested, because Jennifer said that he had called in quite a bit at Disney, which was kind of like his MO. And it really disappointed me to hear that. And when he came home, he fell into the same bullshit pattern that we had been struggling with for many years. Trying to get him out of bed and go out there and find a job and what have you. Then all this fell apart. But there was money. There was packages arriving on a constant basis. When I asked him about where the money was coming from, he said savings. Well, I can tell you that other than the inheritance he got from his father, which he blew through rather quickly, there was never been any savings. He never saved 2 nickels. So money had to be coming somewhere. But his comment about I didn't start it got us wondering that maybe he was caught up in a criminal enterprise with Jen, and Jennifer was.
This is another redaction.
And I don't know if you can collaborate that or not, but I just thought I'd share that.
Yeah, I mean, without getting
I think that they redact that, by the way, because it's an allegation. He's making an allegation against Jen that she was involved in a criminal enterprise involving CSAM. I think that's probably why they're redacting that. Or other, I mean, it might just be that they're talking about CSAM and that's something that is redactable. But I mean, he's making a good argument, right? Same argument that I brought up earlier. Stephan is getting packages all the time. Where's the money coming from? Oh, it's coming from savings. He wasn't making enough money. Chris says he had to make 2.5 times what he was making in order to support himself. And how is he buying all of these things, right? Is he going into debt, or does he have some sort of revenue coming in from another place? And it appears that Chris at least suspects that that's what's happening. He thinks that Jen's involved. I don't think it's a stretch at all.
too much into my investigation in the narrative, it did not appear to be that way, that they were working together.
Okay.
Because I will tell you this, we have spent months.
I'm sorry, real quick. I caught that too. I thought that Chris was his father. Is it, somebody help me out here. Is Chris Stearns not Stephan Stearns' father? Is it possible that both the boys, Deb's sons, were from other men, and maybe Chris adopted Stephan or something like that? Nanny Goat, thank you for bringing that up. I'd love to know the answer to that question. I'm sure somebody knows. Here we go.
Thousands of hours, literally going line by line through his phone and her phone, and there is nothing to suggest that theory, that they were working together.
Could they be working independent?
Well, Stephan was working independent.
He was.
I can tell you that, yes.
Okay, so he was involved in a criminal enterprise.
Well, I don't want to say criminal enterprise, but the stuff that was found on his phone pretty much painted the picture of the whole case.
Okay. More Maddie?
There was, the thumb drive that you provided.
I think he asked was there more CSAM of Maddie? He goes, well, yeah, the thumb drive you just provided, plus the stuff on his phone.
Okay, so there was stuff on that.
I can tell you there was a...
Okay, so the stuff that was on the thumb drive that Chris provided did contain that stuff.
So identifying those individuals, it'd be almost nearly impossible.
30,000?
Yes, sir.
What about the hard drive?
The hard drive was not used when the forensics unit got it. I don't think it was used since like 2020 or something like that.
Well, why did he go to the extent of hiding the damn thing? Because like I said, he was on that computer Sunday morning, and then I assumed when I handed it over that...
the desktop that you handed us...
Yeah.
There was not a hard drive in it.
Right, and then that surprised me. And then when I went to move out of the storage unit, it was at a location at the back. And if you've seen photos, there was a rack of shelves. And
I was there that night when we did this.
Okay, so you could easily slide back to the rear of that, and from where it was, you could easily tuck in where I found the hard drive. You could have easily just placed it.
Right.
So I don't know if he...
But there was no activity on the hard drive for years.
Huh.
So we don't know where the hard drive on the computer that he was using when you said you saw him using the computer, where that hard drive is.
Oh, this isn't the same hard drive?
No.
Oh.
Because if he was using it that morning, we would have been able to tell through the forensics dump.
Right.
And no, it hasn't been used since, I guess, I want to say like 2020 maybe.
Okay, so it was an assumption on my part that was the same hard drive. But I don't know how he put that hard drive in it and...
okay, gotcha. He misspoke and meant grandfather. Thank you very much, Matuko.
I don't know how he put that in there. So he must have just
Thank you,
destroyed the
Nancy.
thing.
Hey,
It would have made
Which we don't.
best sense to do that for sure, but too bad he wasn't smart enough about the phone. Not that I would be encouraging that,
right.
but still. The other interesting thing is, as you know, I came up early Wednesday morning, 2 o'clock, checked into the hotel, tucked Steph and Jen into their room and left 2:20.
Yeah, this it's just me. The talking in the background, they are not in a private interview room. Chris Stearns has just dropped by and is talking with investigators at the Kissimmee Police Department. Started in the lobby. They tried to move to an area that was a little private, but it's not in an interview room. They just, when right before they go out to talk to Chris, they say, the date is July 16th, 2024. The time is 9:18 a.m. We're going out into the lobby to talk to Chris Stearns. So what you're hearing in the background is just other people in the background. It is annoying, but that's the way it is.
30, I went to bed, and then with the recent release of the investigative report, found out that this white Nissan had visited the site of where the body was dumped, which I assume was later identified as Jennifer's car, which meant that based on the timing of what the information revealed, and I'm assuming from the hotel to the townhouse was at least 30 minutes, but I didn't think they had access into that townhome. They just go to the parking lot, or were they able to access the townhome? Because I thought they were asked to vacate, which is why we were in the hotel room.
So maybe I misunderstood. You're saying the Nissan.
No, Kathy, to my knowledge, Stephan does not have any children.
Said the report said that they left Kissimmee at 3:18 and went down to St. Cloud and spent 30 minutes and then returned.
Yes. They did.
Okay, so I'm assuming they departed from the townhouse?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm just...
No, they left from the hotel.
Oh, okay. 3:18. Okay, so 45 minutes later after checking in. Got it. Does any footage show that they both went, or just one?
Just him.
Just him. I asked him about that, and which was would have been on a recorded phone call, why he did that, and he said that he was speculating killing himself. It was interesting, and so then he came back to the hotel, or he...
I don't know if he went back to the hotel there, or if he went... No, he had to go back to the hotel because we have the car leaving the hotel going to Northport.
Thank you, Navy.
And then the car down to Northport as well.
What time did he leave the hotel to go to Northport?
I don't remember exactly.
And I wonder, because Jennifer called me, as I shared with you, I thought around 9:45, to ask me if I knew what Stephan was.
That's when he was on his way back.
Yeah. And I don't know if that was just, she was playing me with that, knowing that he left and went down there. But again, can't figure out why he went down to Northport, because by the time he would have arrived, would have put him at past 6 o'clock. And
well, we know exactly what time he was. Once again, I don't remember what time it was, but we could put him within less than a mile from your house through dash cam video from Northport PD that was working a crash showed him in the car at that point. So we know exactly what time he was there, but what time he came back, I don't remember what time it was.
okay.
Thanks, PJ.
Did you ever confirm that he went to the storage unit?
The records from the storage unit were kind of wishy-washy.
Yeah.
You know, it looked like somebody used your access code, but when we talked to them again, they said the dates and times they may have been mistaken. So whether he was there or not, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Weird. Because like I said, and as Debbie and I...
What's really interesting about this is that Chris Stearns just seems to be, and thank you, Terry Cat, Chris Stearns just seems to be trying to just gather as much information as he can here. It's almost like those, like I say this all the time, I'm so glad that most criminals are stupid. They don't avail themselves of their rights. They will talk to the police all the time. And one of the reasons that criminals typically talk with police in those interviews is they're trying to get some information out of the police, and they think that they won't slip up, right? And that's what seems to be happening here. Chris is like, I want to talk about these things. I want to know what it is that you know, and at the same time point the finger at Jen. And again, like, I think he should point the finger at Jen. I think that she probably is going to be charged eventually.
She said the dogs weren't on full alert around 5 something, but anything could have spooked him. But definitely he wasn't in Northport at that time, so it's just curious as to why. I don't know if he tried to come to the house, and maybe the dogs didn't go on full alert, because he again talked about getting access to his guns, and then he could have accessed a couple of other guns he had at the house.
But he had one gun with him. So any reason why he would want his other guns?
He was in possession of the gun when he was in the white Nissan. Because my understanding is
he had a gun at the house.
They took the silver Lincoln, which had... No, I'm sorry. The 27th, I believe, when KPD officers went out to talk to Jen and Stephan about the disappearance of Maddie. They checked the cars, and inside Stephan's car was a gun.
Right.
So then, at some point, he takes that gun, puts it inside the house, and when they did the search warrant on the house, that's when they recovered that gun.
Okay.
Hey, Aida Shah, yeah, I did catch that. And it seems like he caught himself that, right after that, too. Too bad he wasn't that smart enough with the phone. No, I'm glad that he wasn't smart enough with the phone. And I think Chris is glad that he wasn't smart enough with the phone. I honestly think this is Frankenstein happy that Frankenstein's monster is now contained for the rest of his life. But yeah, that was definitely a faux pas.
So whether he went down there to get another gun,
well, because he said I went to get the guns because I was considering killing myself. And so now that makes sense. He would have come down to Northport to try to get into the house to get the guns. Maybe he came up to the house and found out he couldn't get into the house. The dogs didn't go on full alert. And
that's an interesting theory. Like maybe he was like, this is the end of my life. I should just end it anyway. He didn't have access to the apartment where he had that Sig Sauer. And so maybe that's why he drove down to Northport to get access to guns that were down there to probably take his own life. He wasn't able to access it. We know that, Deb and Chris said that there was something about the security system that Stephan wouldn't have been able to get in. So that is an interesting thought, that that's the reason he fled down to Northport. I always kind of felt like he was like, okay, let's rob mom and dad, let's get some money, and let's get on the run. But maybe in another, equally, I guess, plausible idea would be that he wanted to end his own life, maybe.
And so that makes sense. So that's probably what he was doing. Again, kind of confirming his comment about wanting to get the guns. So he only had the one at the townhouse, which didn't make sense. But now coming down to Northport to do that would make sense. Long way to go for nothing.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Anything for me?
No, not really. I mean, now it's obviously going to be a process.
Yeah.
A lengthy one, probably.
Yeah.
But.
Well, he keeps saying that there's some glimmer of hope, and I'm sitting here going, what glimmer of hope could there be? I mean, you got these horrendous charges of these images and what have you, and then you've got the murder charge. It's like, I don't know what bullet he thinks he's going to dodge.
Right.
We want to keep him as positive as possible, but
your parents, so it's natural.
Yeah.
Regardless of what he didn't do, or whatever, you still got to treat him as your son.
Yeah.
And
30,000 images. That's amazing. Did you have to view all 30,000?
Yes.
How long does it take to do that?
A long time. A long time.
Talk about not unseeing something.
Yeah, it's...
You know, I envy your job, and then I don't envy your
Right.
job. You know, I know it's fascinating work, but at the same time, you're left with a lifetime of that shit.
Yeah, you see it a lot.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I appreciate your...
I have to say I agree with Chris Stearns on this one. There are police officers who investigate these kinds of heinous crimes are to be commended for what it is that they do, what it is that they see. I hope that they all have good therapists, and I know that over time the stigma of therapy has kind of gone away, and I know that like police officers and retired police officers, they have domestic abuse issues at higher rates than normal people because of the things that they see, I think. But I hope that more and more of them avail themselves of the mental health tools that are available, and they are to be commended for having to go through that. Like I've never seen anything depicting CSAM. I don't ever want to see anything that depicts CSAM. But in my job, I do see a lot of like autopsies. I see a lot of crime scene photos. I see a lot of very real things that are very sad and they never go away, right? The Amanda Winkowski case, for example, Amanda, not only did she have an autopsy the first time, but then she was exhumed and had a second autopsy. Man, that was hard to watch, or hard to go through those images the first time that I did that. And so I commend these police officers that do this for a living and have to see all this stuff, all this garbage. And I'm glad that they're there and can catch people that are doing sick things like, wrong button, like Stephan Stearns is accused of doing. And I believe that he did. Like it's alleged that he did it. He's accused of doing it. And in my opinion, he probably did. I believe that he did. But anyway, let's keep listening. It looks like we've got about a minute or 2.5 minutes here.
Yes, sir.
And
Not a problem at all.
All right, to give me some answer some questions. Yeah, we're just trying to get some closure to this and figure out how far back do those images go.
2000.
There were images.
These are all redactions here.
Yes.
Any reason to believe that Jennifer was aware or not aware of this going on?
We don't believe she was aware.
How could she not be
Anything
aware?
prior to that with anybody else?
From Stephan or
Yeah, Stephan, yeah.
not that we know of.
We're clueless how this could have started and why. You know, we asked him, Debbie did, is there any history of, certainly not from us, but from by somebody else, and he said no. So we're clueless as to how this all got started.
I'm inferring there what he's saying is they asked Stephan if he had been abused by somebody else. They're saying, no, it wouldn't have happened from us, but is it possible that it happened from somebody else? That is actually a very good question. Like, I don't want to give them too much of the benefit of the doubt because I think that they are Frankenstein. They created Frankenstein's monster, but it's also possible that a neighbor, like a parent of a friend, could have done something to him that caused him being Stephan to go down this road in the first place. People who are abused tend to abuse in the same way that they were abused. So that's interesting that he brings that up.
That's a big question. A lot of people that do these sorts of things, we never know.
Okay. Wow. All right. Well, guys, you've been helpful. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Again, we're just trying to get.
Thanks for stopping by.
Well, thank you for entertaining.
And anytime, just give me a call. You have my number. Feel free to call anytime.
Thank you. Good seeing you
Sure,
again.
absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, that appears to be the end of it. I'm just going to pause it there because the rest of the recording is them saying what time it is and what time it all ended and stuff like that. Yeah, Stevie, and I can't remember who else brought up Hidden True Crime, but I will go check that out. That is a channel that I really enjoy. Thank you for that lead. Navy says, Gavin, I wondered if Stephan Stearns returned later because he has necro tendencies. Oh, like, but he didn't oh no, he did return to the scene of the crime in Jen's car, right? Remember his adult girlfriend who dumped him said he basically had her position like she's deceased in bed. Yeah, that is a little graphic, but thank you for that. Yeah, interesting. Jeff, when the detective said there was 3,000 images, he said, amazing. Weird choice of words again. Yeah, and it was 30,000 images. Autumn, who is one of our amazing moderators. Hey, guys, let me actually take this moment here just for a second to go back over to the website because Autumn is so amazing. You know, my moderators do this voluntarily. They volunteer. And if you go over to my website and click support, you can scroll down to the very bottom and there is a buy mods a coffee button, and you can buy them a coffee. And I encourage you to do so because they are amazing. Just go to gavinfish.com, click on support. What's the so Autumn? Thank you very much. Yeah, that is a weird choice of words that he said that. Truth sticks. Gavin, Mom said he has was run over twice by a truck. Yet no cast, no broken bones. Yet TBI, but didn't spend one night at the hospital at 7 years old. Laughable. I didn't know those specific details. Thank you, Truth Sticks. Yeah, GF. He filmed himself doing it. Pretty damning, indeed. GF. His father wants to clarify the amount of images because there's probably more that he knows about and wants to know what they have found. Yeah, I honestly don't think, while I don't think that Chris and Deb Stearns are, they're not guilty of this crime. They certainly have created a monster, right? Or in my opinion, but it does appear to me that they have been helpful. They're like, oh, here is this thumb drive. Here is this hard drive, right? I don't know that he knows any more about that sort of thing. It's certainly possible. Lily Benjamin, Gavin, they were feeding off each other, not in a positive way, said Chris Stearns. She is as culpable as he is regarding the death of their daughter. Yeah, she did say that, or he did say that. Zach says, Gavin, families keep secrets. I wouldn't have wondered if Stephan was perhaps abused as a youngster were it not for Chris Stearns' statement that I just called out. Yeah. So I'm in, I want to make this as anonymous as possible, but I am aware of a person that was raised in a maybe eccentric but loving home who ended up committing pretty serious sexual crimes. And it came out in that he had been abused as a youngster from somebody that the family did not suspect. And this is somebody that I personally know. So I think it's just as likely that if Stephan was abused as a child, it's just as likely that it was by somebody outside. Well, maybe not just as likely. It's more likely that it happened at home now that I think about it. But it's also likely that it's also possible, let's say, that it happened from somebody else. I don't know. In hearing the limited amount of recordings of Chris and Deb Stearns, while I think they are enablers, I don't think that they are abusers. Of course, the best abusers also are the best at camouflage too. So I'm kind of speaking out of both sides of my mouth. I'm arguing with myself, but thank you for that comment. Yeah, Girl Friday says he's former law enforcement, so he does appear to ask the right questions. That's kind of how I'm reading it too. Like he's asking good questions. Jay Margaret says, Jeff, as soon as the police hence that he may have been abused or sense that he may have been abused, dad is out of there. I bet the dad did something to Stephan. It's possible. It's possible. There were a couple of things that, a couple of comments that I highlighted. Let me just go back here. Gina says, Gavin, the stained glass is beautiful. Yes. Our home is an historic home. It's one of the newest in town. It was built in 1903, and it has fun Tiffany and Company glass throughout. It's pretty fun. Thank you for noticing. I love it too. Barb hair. There are a couple of these that I showed as we were listening, but I wanted to talk about them. Gavin, if thought something was going on, why didn't he contact the police? Oh yeah. So you were he was talking about Jen. There's something going on with Jen too. There's some sort of criminal enterprise, especially if he thought that he remembers a photo. Yeah, it's a good question why he didn't contact the police. Granny Annie is traveling again. Well, Granny Annie, I am not traveling again. I am so glad to be home from my latest travels. But Granny Annie says, there was some sort of time period that Stephan Stearns was in custody of the county. It appeared. Gavin, have you seen county records? I am not aware of any other time that Stephan Stearns was in the custody of the county. However, having said that, it's really easy for me to miss that sort of thing, having been sick and having been traveling and also having a day job. So if anybody has that, please head over to my website. Let me bring you back over to the website and click on contact. There's a form that you can fill out to send me information. You can do so anonymously or not. It is up to you. But thank you for that question, Granny Annie, or that comment. Let's see, a couple more. Deborah Ann, so happy to have found your channel. I'm glad you found this too. Do you think Jen will be held accountable for this? Also, I thought Jen told the police she showed Chris a picture. I may be wrong. I don't remember her saying that to the police in the interviews that I've listened to. And there are a couple that I haven't heard yet. I've gotten them, but I haven't heard them yet. So it's possible. Do I think she'll be held accountable for it? Yeah. Like, prosecutors are in the business of prosecuting. That's like, investigators are in the business of investigating. Prosecutors love to prosecute. Again, keeping this anonymous, but I do remember a case that I was a small part of helping in, where no, it wasn't that case. It's just that I had helped on a case, and so I had kind of built a relationship with a prosecutor, and there was this case where a man was arrested for murdering a child, and I heard that the mother was going to be charged soon too, and she was charged with, not with murder, but with like those kinds of crimes, like child endangerment and stuff like that. So yeah, I think yes. I think yes, she probably will. Thanks for that question. Truthstick says, how do we know Jen only had one phone? Okay, so this is where we get into like criminal mastermindery. I thought this was a great question. It is possible that Jen had another phone. However, when people have multiple phones, people tend to see that they have multiple phones. They had two roommates. She was around work, stuff like that. People would notice if she had more than one phone, I think, unless they were like the exact same phone in the exact same case. And I just don't think Jen was smart enough to do that. I really don't. And we heard in this recording that the police just don't believe that there is anything that indicates that Jen was somehow involved. I think she probably is. Well, I mean, if they're looking at her bank accounts or PayPal or Venmo or Cash App or something like that, which they would, they're saying there's nothing that they see that indicates that she was involved. However, I still think that she was somehow involved. Like, she was kind of pimping her daughter too. Like she was letting her boyfriend sleep with her daughter. So whether that's just mental illness or like she purposely did that, I don't know. Either way, I think she'd be charged with it. Thank you for those questions. Yeah, I think that's a good place to stop today, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Now, tomorrow, we're continuing on with the Madeline Soto case. We are going to be listening to the first part of a recording of the second roommate. We're going to be doing that tomorrow night at 7:30 Eastern, so please join me for that. Oh, I do see that I missed a super chat. I want to bring that up. Terry Cat says, Gavin, the cops know exactly who is responsible, and I feel like this cop is just being nice to Chris, but they won't tell him everything. And I think that is a fair assessment. Of course, they won't tell him everything. They have to be very, very careful. I did notice that the stuff that they did tell him was all stuff that is in the public record, right? They didn't tell him anything new. They just kind of, I guess, humored him. So thank you, Terry Cat. Thank you all for those super chats. Those definitely help. I wanted to, before we go, just check in, see where we are on, oh, yep, it's gone up. Guys, we are at 89.8 thousand subscribers, and that is just a lot of fun. Thank you to all those of you who are new, those of you who've been around for a long time. I'm really, really grateful for all of you. Thank you so much for being here. Hopefully, I will see you tomorrow night at 7:30 Eastern when we start going over the recording of the second roommate named Natalie. And I hope to see you then. Until then, I bid you adieu. Have a great night. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.